What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DUMBPORIUM podcast. This will be the podcast where I tell interesting, embarrassing, and possibly educational stories of complete debauchery and idiocy. This is going to be my first episode, so please bear with me. This story actually takes place in high school. I was a junior in high school, went to a high school in Grants, New Mexico. I was into a drug called dextromethorphan. If you didn't know, dextromethorphan is the active ingredient in Robitussin. At light doses, it's used to treat coughs, shit like that. Even a light pain reliever. At higher doses, which is called the first plateau, it has some euphoric effects. It's in the class of hallucinogens known as dissociatives, which is similar to both ketamine and PCP. They actually call people robo-tripping or dexing the poor man's PCP. And we were definitely fucking poor kids. They couldn't afford drugs, or at least the fun kind, or good kind. So we would still cop syrup. Nice. Anyways. So yeah. When I was a junior in high school, I would have been 16 years old. I was very into dexing out, as we called it. We used to get these robo gels. They were actually pill form, and you pop like 20 of them, which is like, I don't know, 200 milligrams or something. A medium to moderate dose. And yeah, you trip out, start to feel weird. Well, one morning, I got a hold of some of these by somebody that shouldn't go known. But yeah, I was at school, just got in. It's like fucking, I don't know, 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, this is the perfect time to take 20 Robitussin gels and just go about my day, I guess. So down the hatch, took 20. It takes about 30, 40 minutes to kick in. So we had like a reading period that was 15 minutes long. Went there, cake, breezed by. Next period, I'm not sure what it is, but it was like an easier kind of glide through period. And then the period where all this takes place was photography class. Our photography teacher was kind of this, she was a hippie for sure, but she was cool as fuck and didn't really care what you did. And in photography, we could walk around the entire school taking pictures. So I figured I'm going to be tripping and I could just walk around taking pictures. This class is going to be a breeze. We get in there and the teacher's like, yo, so we're actually going to do a report on photography. So all of us are going to go to the computer lab. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Because this is supposed to be smooth sailing, no heavy lifting, nothing like that. And you know, if it was just photography, holding the camera, fucking photography and dextromethorphan go together like powerlifting and LSD. It's a beautiful thing. So we go into the computer lab, get everything situated, and we're there to do research. So in the midst of doing the research, it's kicking in harder and harder and harder. And one of the odd things about dextromethorphan is it kind of makes everything into stop motion animation. So it's like as if somebody removed frames from your vision. There's a bunch of different theories as to why that happens, but that's kind of what happens. Also makes everything a little bit blurred or hazy. So I'm staring at one of those computer screens. It wasn't, I wouldn't say old school, but it was when like flat monitors first came out. And I could literally see the lines scrolling, like the electric lines. And I was starting to get nauseous. And the nausea kept on growing and growing. And our teacher had stepped out. And in place, there was the security guard, who I'm going to call Bernice because her name was Bernice. So Uh, as I'm getting more and more nauseated, I'm like, oh fuck, I might puke right now. And instead of just puking at the desk, I got up and I ran to the trash can that's in the middle of an open floor room, and I just fucking grab it. So I'm spewing this red shit because the Robitussin gels are red, so it tinted my bile in a red color. And I kind of finished up, and the security guard was looking at me like, what the fuck? And I put it down, and I'm like, act cool, Aaron. Everything is going to be all right, man. Just sit back at your desk. The questions ended, you know. She's like, you okay? Yes, I'm okay. You feeling better? Yes. So I sit back down. Within 5 minutes, same thing happening again. The fucking lines. And boom, stomach is, ugh, it's fucking going again. It's going again. So I'm like, oh shit. And this time I don't want to throw up in the trash can again or on the floor. So I just run out of the room. I run out of the room and I go into the first boys' restroom. I get in the fucking restroom and I'm trying to make it to the stall. So I'm hoofing it and I'm not going to make it. So instead of stopping at the sink like what a normal person would do, I ran to where the fucking urinals are. And I went to one of the urinals and I just... and I fucking puke all over this urinal, and I'm still tripping, keep in mind, and I'm like on the floor, and next to me it was this kid. I don't know what they called him. I think his nickname was Buster or some shit. He was an underclassman. So he was an underclassman, and he's looking at me horrified like, what the fuck? Because I just, you know, took a dive into the urinal next to him, and like he's done pissing or whatever, and he's like, oh my god, dude, are you okay? Because it's red vomit in the toilet. And he's like, do you want me to go get somebody? Should I get somebody to help? And I'm like, oh no, dude, I'm fine, don't even worry about it. Trying to play it cool, but obviously there was something wrong. And it was just so funny the way he fucking screamed at me, like to ask if I was okay. And then he just looked at me weird like, oh, okay. And I just washed my fucking hands like nothing happened. So after that, I go back into the class, I sit back down, and by this time, Bernice is questioning me more and more. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, I just don't feel that good. And she's looking in the trash can, and she's like, hey, why is it red? And I'm like, what? And she's like, why is your vomit red? And I was trying to think fast, I was on my fucking toes, so I'm like, the reason being, I actually chugged a gallon of Tampico. You know, Tampico, that gross-ass fucking sugary juice drink. Yeah, I lied and said I chugged an entire gallon of it, and that's why I'm vomiting. So I'm still sick. And she's like, do you want to just go to the nurse's office and go home? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And it's only second period. So I walk to the nurse's office, tell the nurse I'm sick. She's like, yeah, go ahead, make a phone call. And the only one that's not working are my grandparents. So my grandfather is like this fucking old hard-ass Mexican man. And he's probably like, why are you calling me? So he comes down to the school. He checks me out of the nurse's office. And we're walking through. And he doesn't even realize that like I'm acting funny or anything like that. And he drives me to my truck, which I do not recommend anybody driving on decks. But that was our culture. And so he drives me to my truck and he's like, yeah, all right, we'll see ya. And I get in my truck. I just get in, drive home, flawless, perfect victory. At the time, one of my friends was living at my house and he had just graduated. So he's in there playing video games. And I smell weed when I pull up to my house. So I'm like, what the hell? Beep, fucking that guy doesn't smoke weed. Who is it? So I get to the door and I hear yelling and I'm like, oh shit, my other boy who has early period or early release, he's fucking there playing video games. So second period of class, I get to come inside my house. Nobody's there except the boys. I had to fucking take bong rips with the boys while I'm tripping balls and play video games the rest of the day. And it was actually a great afternoon. So, the lesson here is Set and setting for sure. Yeah, don't do drugs before school, or in any foreign or weird place where you have responsibility. Definitely don't drive. Wouldn't recommend that. Um, yeah, and if you do like to do decks, don't look at a old school computer screen because it will make you sick, and you will vomit a gallon of Tampico in the trash can. Right on. That's it. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode. I'm gonna keep working on this. Hopefully, it'll get better. This was just a short and sweet one, so I could kind of get my ears wet. I think that's a saying, whatever. But in the future, I'm gonna be telling much longer, complex stories, and hopefully, can turn into something where I could have somebody else on, and we could share stories about dumbass experiences we had. Right on. Well, thanks, guys. Really fun. Peace.